July 26, 1944. Tinian, Northern Marianas. The island quivers under a sun that feels carved from iron. Bulldozers crawl through volcanic dust, their engines straining over coral ridges and black sand that still smokes from naval bombardment. Every crater hides a shadow, and every shadow possibly a Japanese rifle. Near the southern end of the island, in a ravine choked with mangrove and rock, Lieutenant Commander Donald Savage of the Seabees crouches beside a Marine officer studying a hastily drawn map. "They're alive in there," the Marine says, tapping a pencil against a cluster of X marks labeled Tunnel Complex 14. Company L hit it twice. Grenades, satchel charges. The cave swallowed them. Savage watches a wisp of heat shimmer off the cave mouth across the valley. It's fortified by logs, concrete, and some kind of improvised gun port. Every few minutes a shot drifts out like a breath. He wipes his forehead with his sleeve. "You try flame tanks?" The Marine nods. "Sherman's roebling it up the ridge line last night. The slope's too steep, track spun out, one tank stuck in a crater. They kill us if we try to close by hand." Savage glances back to his work party, men in oil-stained dungarees, not combat uniforms, welding torches slung from their shoulders. A half dozen of them are gathered around a bulldozer stripped down to bare armor, cables and hoses snaking from the dozer's frame to a Sherman flamethrower unit parked beside it. The Seabees are neither mechanics nor soldiers alone. They build landing fields by morning and fight by night. Somewhere between they invent. "Then we bring the tank to the cave," Savage says. By 10 o'clock hours, under shell bursts echoing off coral cliffs, the Seabees experiment lurches into life. They've fused the heart of a flamethrower to the body of a Caterpillar D7 bulldozer, a contraption that looks like two ideas arguing on the same chassis. The flamethrower's projector snout sits bolted to the blade brace, hydraulic lines feeding back to a 400-gallon napalm tank welded behind the driver's seat. Sheets of scrap armor from a wrecked LST cover the sides, half melting in the heat. Gunner's mate Bill Hanlon climbs into the driver's seat, goggles sliding down his burned nose. "You sure this'll hold, sir?" Savage checks the hose pressure once more. "No," he says honestly. "But if it doesn't, you'll never know it failed." Hanlon grins, pulls the throttle, and the engine catches with a cough like a smoker. The bulldozer lurches forward, treads grinding coral. Above it, the 75 armed Sherman Zippo rolls in parallel, its nozzle already dripping napalm from the test perch. Across the ravine, Japanese defenders peer through slits in the rock. They see something unfamiliar crest the ridge, a machine with the blade of a construction vehicle and the snout of a dragon. One sergeant lowers his field glasses, uncertain. "Kikai Bakudan? Machine bomb?" The Allied line quiets for 30 seconds. Then Savage lifts his arm. "Light it." The dozer advances. From the projector mouth bursts an unbroken tongue of fire 30 meters long, so bright it drains color from the world. The sound is less explosion than animal, deep, roaring inhalations every time Hanlon toggles the pressure valve. The napalm floods into the cave mouths, clinging, crawling inward. The coral glows molten pink. Flame licks out through vents in the hillside as trapped air in the tunnels ignites. For a moment the entire cliff face trembles. Secondary explosions follow, ammunition cooking off, grenades cracking like popcorn inside the rock. The Marines watching from above shield their faces. "Jesus," one whispers. "They're burning the mountain." The bulldozer grinds closer, blade up, pushing debris over the now collapsing entrance. The ground heaves, then sinks as the tunnel roofs cave in. Smoke jets skyward through hairline fissures where there used to be firing ports. 20 minutes ago that ridge spat rifles. Now it exhales nothing but heat. When the dozer finally pulls back, paint blistered, the crew inside is soaked with sweat and oil. Savage climbs up onto the hull and looks down through the settling haze. "Mark that sector sealed." The Marines stare, half relieved, half unsettled. They have seen flamethrower tanks before, but never this hybrid. A beast born of pragmatism and fury, crawling forward where no armor could tread, sealing the enemy's last refuges beneath rivers of fire and sand. Word spreads before nightfall. The men start calling it the Flame-Dozer. Someone paints a small demon face onto the scorched armor, tongue of fire curling from its mouth. Within 48 hours, engineers on the North Shore are demanding their own. One invention, born in coral and desperation, has changed the calculus of war underground. April 20, 1945. Okinawa. The island's southern spine, Shuri Ridge, burns through mist and smoke. Rain sheets down in gray veils, turning gullies into rivers of mud. From hidden caves cut into the limestone, Japanese heavy machine guns and 47mm anti-tank teams fire by map and memory, invisible yet everywhere. For you, forces, it's a nightmare reborn. Infantry advances vanish under crossfire. Flamethrower tanks bog down in mud or catch mines on the slopes. Command posts label sectors not by enemy units but by the smell of the dead. At 0800 hours along the front northwest of Naha, the Seabees arrive. They aren't soldiers by trade, they're builders, engineers, artists of dirt and steel. But the Pacific has made them something else. Combat engineers tuned for hell. Their columns grind up using bulldozers armored in makeshift plates, half-track tarps, and even salvaged boiler doors. Every machine bears scars of earlier fights. Tinian, Saipan, Peleliu. Emblazoned down one flaking hull in white paint is a phrase the Japanese will soon learn to fear. Here comes the fire. The morning operation pairs a squadron of Seabees with the 1st Marines. The mission: clear the limestone ridge riddled with tunnel systems feeding the Shuri line. The Japanese division entrenched there believes the network invulnerable, hundreds of interlinked caves, gun ports, and trap corridors burrowed deep enough to ignore bombardment. They can hide, strike, and vanish. And then just after 0900 the Flame-Dozer moves. Petty Officer 3rd Class Thomas Tex Andrews drives, face blackened by smoke behind his goggles. Seated behind him, in a welded cupola, a crewman operates the Sherman flamethrower rig that the Seabees have grafted to the Dozer's frontal armor. Cables and hoses snake like veins, pulsing with fuel thickened to napalm gel. Over the radio a Marine tank commander calls, "You're clear through Sector Charlie. Godspeed, Bulldog." Andrews guns the throttle. The crawler lurches forward, treads clanking like chains on an iron beast. Rain hisses against the Dozer blade as they crest the first knoll. From the shadows of nearby caves, Japanese gunners open fire. Bullets smash into the improvised armor, sparks then nothing. The Flame-Dozer keeps coming. The flamethrower operator flips the arming valve. Inside the hose line, compressed nitrogen primes the mix. A dull vibration moves through the hull. "Ready," he says. Andrews raises the blade and angles into the slope where the firing flashes bloom. "Torch it." The world in front of them vanishes in flame. A tongue of orange arcs into the cave, twisting like liquid metal. It floods the opening and detonates, fire curling back through fissures in the ridge as burning fuel seeks air. The roar is deafening. Even through his headset, Andrews feels it in his ribs. The caves, once black, now billow incandescent red from within. Marines following in the rear crouch behind their shell-pocked cover, watching what looks like the mountain itself catching fire. "Jesus Christ," one says, "they're melting it." Smoke gushes from vents high up the ridge as the caves ignite along their linked tunnels. The ground shakes, a hollow boom reverberates through the rock. Inside, ammunition caches go next, then gasoline drums, a series of concussions that pulse upward in slow rhythm. The Flame-Dozer plows on, blade dropping to push burning debris over the mouths that once covered guns. The cave systems, labyrinths designed to resist every weapon, are now sealed under layers of molten stone and fire. A Marine captain radios in disbelief. They've turned earthworks into ovens. Request more of those iron monsters. Throughout the campaign, the Seabees modify more machines. Bulldozers armed with tank-mounted Ronson units, Navy fuel pumps, even aircraft flame tanks stolen from wrecked Corsairs. On every ridge between Kakazu and Shuri, the same scene repeats. Spray the caves, push them closed, move on before the fire stop breathing. Japanese survivors pulled from the outskirts would later describe what they saw from neighboring tunnels. Walls glowing, air searing, comrades clawing at stone blanketed in burning gel. One prisoner, trembling and half-blind, mutters to his interrogator, "Your bulldozers, they breathe fire." The mountain cried. By early May the Shuri line begins to collapse. Naval artillery still pounds from offshore, but what shatters the defense is quieter. The steady grinding approach of Seabee machinery, tearing through wire and stone, replacing fear of infantry with a deeper terror. The sound of engines beneath screams. When the ridge finally falls, the battlefield is a wasteland streaked with ash. The bulldozers stand blackened and steaming, armor dented by bullets that couldn't matter less. Andrews wipes soot from his goggles and sits in silence for a while, watching rain fall as steam off the hot ground. A Marine beside him murmurs, "Never thought a builder'd end the war faster than my rifle." Andrews doesn't answer. He just pats the side panel of his Flame-Dozer. The metal ticks softly as it cools, like a living creature settling into sleep. What began as an experiment on Tinian has become legend. On Okinawa's broken hills, the Flame-Dozers don't just dig, they erase. The caves had promised the Japanese years of resistance. In less than a month, engineering made even the earth itself surrender.